Hey. Thank you very much, Director of the program. I must thank you for helping me to give instructions to the young person who is just 21, because you have said there is a key and a note and address. So we give you the key to open in the house which has the address. But I don't know where the house is. That's the only problem. But thank you very much indeed. Director of the program, Minister Natim Tetwa, Minister of Arts and Culture, the Premier of Gauteng, Minister Mr. David Mahora, and I was struggling with whether I should say comrade. Is it a crime if I said so? No crime. Okay. All premiers present here today, the ministers and deputy ministers present here today, the acting mayor, the executive mayor of Tshwane, and all other mayors present here today, former chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellency Mr. Amara C., our brother. Thank you to have you here today as we celebrate our 21st Freedom Day, particularly if we take into account where we come from recently, of the troubles in our country. It is pleasing to have you with us here today. Members of Parliament, National Parliament, and provincial legislatures who are present here, senior officials from all levels of government, especially our police force and our defense force, our last line of defense to defend our democracy and freedom. Members of a diplomatic corps and all international guests who are with us here today, compatriots, fellow South Africans, Dumelang, Sani Bonani, Molweni, good morning, Abshane, Dimasholoni, Nahanya, Ninganyangovu. Realebo ahul by Yesu. Thank you for the opportunity to address you on this important day in the history of our beautiful country. On this day, the 27th April 1994, we held our first democratic elections, signaling the end of racist apartheid rule. Today, we remember that historic moment. We are celebrating our triumph over institutionalized racism, repression, state-sponsored violence, and the enforced division of our people based on a race or ethnicity. Namhlanje sikhumbula usuku olubaluleke kakhulu emlandweni wezwe lakithi. Usuku lolu lapho esavota khona okokuqala ngqa, lapho esanqoba khona inqubo yobandlululo, kwangena inkululeko nohulumeni wombuso wentando yeningi. Izindimbane zabantu balelizwe zakhetha ukufulathela ukwecwasana ngebala nodlame, zakhetha ukuthula nokubumbana nenqubekela phambili. Under the leadership of former President Nelson Mandela, we demonstrated to the world that a new nation can rise from the ashes of racial intolerance and ethnic polarization. On Freedom Day, we also recall the solidarity and friendship of many peace-loving nations and peoples from Africa and the world during the struggle for our liberation. President Nelson Mandela emphasized African solidarity at the Organization of African Unity Summit in Tunis on the 13th June 1994, when he said, and I quote, "When the history of our struggle is written, it will tell a moving story of the sacrifices that the people of our continent made to ensure that intolerable insult to human dignity, the apartheid crime against humanity, became a thing of the past." Unquote. Indeed, we shall never forget the solidarity, sacrifice, and selfless support we received from our brothers and sisters in Africa in particular, and from freedom-loving nations outside of Africa. We had a successful transition in 1994 and began building a new, united, democratic, non-racial and non-sexist and prosperous South Africa. We developed a model constitution which includes a Bill of Rights. The constitution also incorporates socio-economic rights to promote access to basic services such as water, quality education, health, housing, social security, and others. It also enables the establishment of institutions that promote democracy and the rights of citizens, the Chapter 9 institutions. Our Constitution also establishes three arms of the state: the executive, judiciary, and parliament, which function well together to strengthen the advance to a better life for all our people. This year, we also celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Charter, which underpins our country's democratic constitution. Like the Freedom Charter, the Constitution emphasizes that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, thereby promoting a common citizenship, a common future, and a common destiny for all. The Freedom Charter adds that no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of all the people. Indeed, our people go to the polls every 5 years to elect a government of their choice. On Freedom Day, we also reflect on progress made in extending basic services to our people. All reviews that have been undertaken, such as the 20-year review, Census 2011, and the reviews done by the private sector and some non-organizational institutions, point to the fact that South Africa is a much better place to live in today than before April 1994. Millions of people now have access to water, health care, education, housing, and many other basic needs, which they did not have before 1994. Work is continuing to reach more people each year. We have launched programs to improve healthcare provision, such as Operation Phakisa for ideal clinics. We want people to be treated with dignity and compassion when they are ill or visiting relatives who are sick in health facilities. We continue to explore ways of improving the quality of education. We conduct special annual national assessments of our learners and continue to build new schools and refurbish existing ones because we want the best education for our children. We continue to implement programs designed to achieve economic freedom because political freedom alone is inadequate. With our massive industrialization and infrastructure programs, we consciously include Black people, women, the youth, and persons with disabilities to enable them to participate in the economy. To further expand Black economic empowerment, we are on course to grow a new crop of Black industrialists. Working with business and labor, we keep looking for innovative ways of expanding the economy so that our people can get jobs. Programs such as Operation Phakisa for the ocean economy, the Industrial Policy Action Plan, or the renewed investment in agriculture are designed to explore opportunities of boosting employment, creating growth. We are also working harder to further promote trade and economic relations with nations within the African continent. Africa is crucial to our economic growth and development. It is trade with our continent, among others, that helped cushion South Africa's economy during the difficult times of recession from 2008. Many South African companies have established themselves successfully in the continent and have been warmly received by our brothers and sisters in the continent. We welcome their contribution to the economic development of our continent. Compatriots and friends, today we congratulate ourselves as South Africans for the achievement we have scored working together. As we enter the third decade of our freedom, we recommit ourselves to the vision of building a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous South Africa. The National Development Plan, which is the country's socio-economic development blueprint, which is being implemented by government, outlines the type of society we want to be in 2030. The National Planning Commission, which produced the National Development Plan, had diagnosed some of the following challenges in our country. Too few people work. The quality of school education for black people is poor. Infrastructure is poorly located, inadequate, and under-maintained. The public health system could meet the demand of our people or sustain quality. Public services were uneven and often of poor quality. Crime and corruption levels were high. South Africa remained a divided society. These were some of the elements that the first diagnostic report revealed to us. Our country then produced the National Development Plan to help us reverse these challenges. Informed by this plan, we are working to build a future where every citizen of our country lives in a community with proper infrastructure, be it a road, school, clinic, recreational facilities, a community hall, electricity, water, and sanitation. We are building communities that have effective and responsive police stations and community policing forums, and where the people and the police work together to fight crime. We must also unite in building a public service and a private sector that are free of corruption, which undermine the developmental goals of the country. In the quest for economic freedom, the National Development Plan enjoins us to reduce the unemployment rate to 6% by 2030, which would create an additional 11 million jobs. This would help us tackle youth and women unemployment. This is a difficult goal, but it is achievable if we set ourselves sights to it and transform and deracialize the economy to enable it to perform in a manner that will enable growth and job creation. This means all of us who are given the task and responsibilities in government, we should bear this in mind as we work, that we are working towards a particular objective. Not only in government, the private sector should do the same. In actual fact, all of us in the country, because we cannot have a prosperous South Africa overnight. We need to work for it. The last census of 2011 confirmed that South Africa is essentially a nation of young people. Just over 30 of the population is under age of 15. Given this reality, we can and should make our economy receptive to employing young people and to enable the youth to create their own jobs through becoming entrepreneurs. We urge the business sector and labor to work with government further to implement the Youth Employment Accord and to provide opportunities for young people. I think we should accept the reality that there are issues that are not easy to agree, but we cannot avoid. We need to talk about. And these are the issues that need us, the labor and business, to sit back and talk about. How do we deal with youth unemployment? How do we look at the entry into the economy of young graduates who have no experience? Because it will be a danger to our country that young people with degrees are unemployed, trained in many things. We need to deliberately become flexible to allow them to enter the economy. We must make it easy for them to do so. That is going to need government, private sector, and labor to sit down and work out a plan. How do we do it? Because if we don't, it could be a time bomb for the country. The youth could be frustrated. They can begin to do anything. They could be misled by self-centered people. So we need to be seen to be working on that one and compromise where we need to compromise in order to address the national issue. We want to end the feeling of hopelessness in our country and frustration among the youth, particularly in the townships and rural areas. We can't talk about it and do nothing about it. It is such frustration which makes some of our youth prone to being used by criminal elements for their ends, or to end up abusing alcohol and drugs. Today, we have some students from Tshwane University of Technology and Botho Society Psychology Skills Development Center in Soshanguve, here in Tshwane, as our special guests. Here they sit there. Here they are. We invited them to be here with us, to celebrate with us. because we believe they need to begin to interact with such important occasions. They will later visit Freedom Park as they want to appreciate where their country comes from and where we are going. Like all young people, they want a better future. Our responsibility is to ensure that we do not disappoint them and millions of young people in our country. We recommit ourselves as government to ensure that all policies and plans that we develop and implement build a better future for our children and the youth. Fellow South Africans and friends, as we mark Freedom Day, we do so against the background of a difficult period for our country. 7 people were killed during horrific attacks that were directed at foreign nationals in Durban and Johannesburg. The figure includes 3 South Africans. The South Africans who died in the conflict in Durban are 1. Ayanda Dlamini, aged 22, old. 2. Thabo Mzobe, 14 years old. And Sawenkosi Dlamini, 29 years old. In other words, this wave of violence has deprived us of 3 young people. It is believed that one of them was hit by a stray bullet or something, but it indicates what we need to do as a country: to be responsible, to act properly within the law, and to deal with things differently than attacking other people. Among the foreign nationals who died during the same week is a Mozambican citizen, Manuel Josias, who was identified by the media as Manuel Stole. He was killed during a callous robbery in Alexander Township. Reports indicate that he used a false name to avoid detection by authorities as he was an illegal immigrant. The authorities are working hard with affected embassies to ensure that all the foreign-born victims of the violence are positively identified. We extend our deepest condolences to all the families and compatriots of the deceased. The police have been instructed to work tirelessly to bring the killers of all to book. We strongly condemn these attacks. They have no place in our democracy, where people are free to express their unhappiness about any issue. We also urge our communities to isolate criminal elements who perpetuate such horrendous crimes against fellow human beings. They should be reported to the police. We thank members of the public who have already provided information to the police about some of the incidents. We applaud South Africans for coming out in their thousands in the past week to register their condemnation of the violence directed at foreign nationals. The marches have demonstrated that we are peace-loving people who believe in human dignity, human rights, and Ubuntu, and that South Africans are opposed to xenophobia, racism, and all related intolerances. Abantu baseningizimu Afrika baphume ngobuningi babo kuleli sonto eledlule bezwakalisa ukungahambisani kwabo nodlame ebelubhekiswe ebantwini bokufika kuleli. Lokhu kukhombisile umhlaba wonke ukuthi akulona iqiniso ukuthi thina bantu baseMzansi Afrika siyabazonda abantu bokufika. We thank the United Nations, the African Union, and all sister nations in the continent who have expressed their support and encouragement during this challenging period. The latest outbreak of violence necessitates more comprehensive action from all of us to ensure that there is no recurrence of such incidents. We have to address the underlying causes of the violence and tensions, which is the legacy of poverty, unemployment, and inequality in our country and our continent, and the competition for limited resources. The Freedom Charter says there should be peace and friendship in our relations with other countries in the continent and beyond, and especially with our brothers and sisters in the continent. We are therefore called upon to find a constructive solution to the challenge of migration, working with representatives of the foreign nationals and government of the countries from which they come and our communities. I have established a committee of 14 ministers to find solutions and to help us deal with the underlying causes. We have spent the past week consulting stakeholders from various sectors. I also met with leaders of organizations representing foreign nationals. It was a very informative and constructive meeting. The stakeholders included business, labor, civil society, and government. And we agreed to work together to ensure that this kind of attack does not happen again by addressing the underlying causes. We also had very serious discussions with leaders of these foreign nationals. And they are working on it, and they were able to express themselves and also highlight what they believe are the problems, for an example, that lead to foreign nationals to commit crime. They raise matters quite seriously. Ministers, deputy ministers, and premiers have also been holding imbizos with communities nationwide to hear their concerns and views. Government will take into account the issues raised in the imbizos and the stakeholders' consultations as we work to find lasting solutions to this challenge. We also applaud Parliament for going into recess this coming week to enable members to attend to this critical issue that is affecting our communities and foreign nationals. Let us emphasize that we have noted the complaints raised by South Africans, and these will be attended to. These include that the number of illegal and undocumented migrants is increasing, that they take their jobs as some employers prefer workers who are prepared to accept lower wages. There are also complaints that foreign nationals benefit from free government services and that they run businesses illegally. There is also an accusation that undocumented foreign nationals commit crimes in the country. These are some of the issues raised by our people, which they attribute to the anger of some people or the attitude hardening. We reiterate that none of these complaints can justify attacks on foreign nationals and the looting of their shops. We condemn the violence strongly. It is also important to emphasize that not all foreign nationals are in the country illegally. Many live here legally and contribute to the socio-economic development of the country. It is also not true that all foreign nationals are involved in criminal activities. There are some who are, but not all of them. The Interministerial Committee has been directed to deal with all issues, including ensuring the respect for the laws of the land by all, and ensuring that no persons live in the country illegally or run businesses illegally. Government will also work with stakeholders such as business so that they can support the process and adhere to the laws that prohibit the employment of illegal immigrants. This will also protect foreign nationals from exploitation. Government will also work with communities to ensure that support is provided to refugees and asylum seekers residing in our country, in accordance with the international law and Ubuntu. Government has already announced measures to improve security at the border posts, including deploying the army in 7 provinces recently to patrol border posts because we cannot leave our borders open and hope that either the angels or the ancestors will guard our borders. They'll never. They need us to be there. Members of the SANDF will also be deployed as immigration officers to improve the capacity of the Department of Home Affairs at the border posts. In the long term, the Department of Home Affairs is developing a new international migration green paper to be released for public comment in early 2016. The new policy will take into account the recent experiences. It is our firm belief that the efforts of the African Union to promote peace, stability, and democracy in every corner of the continent will, in the long run, reduce the need for people to migrate towards South Africa or towards the south. The promotion of intra-Africa trade, regional integration, infrastructure, and other economic interventions is also designed to improve the economic situation in sister countries. The end result will be that brothers and sisters will eventually no longer need to leave their countries in search of a better life. We are preparing a formal report for SADC, African Union, and the United Nations on the matter we are just discussing. I must also say, some of the issues raised by the representatives of the foreign national do need to be discussed. Firstly, at SADC, as well as African Union. Some of them had very serious allegations against their own countries to explain why they are in South Africa. In fact, some of them warned us that there is almost certainty another wave of refugees coming, given the developments in their own countries. And they answered the question why they jump all these countries to come to South Africa. Because what is expected with refugees is that if your country is problematic, you jump to the neighbor. But these take trouble to jump all the countries until South Africa. They explained why. That will be contained in my report, because in a sense, I don't think we need to appear as being critical to other governments. We can't. But they said, all of them, wherever they are, they know South Africa is a safer country. That's what they said. Some have left their original countries, lived in other countries, but the situation was still not safe. They say only South Africa. They say South Africa has a clear constitution that defends its citizens as well as citizens from outside of South Africa. And that South Africa, when they are here, they live like Africans among their brothers and sisters. They don't live in camps. So, in a sense, my view is that these matters do need to be discussed by the AU. Because much as we can have a problem alleged to be xenophobic, our brother countries contribute to this. Why are the citizens not in their countries in South Africa? Because it is not useful to criticize South Africa as if we mushroom these foreign nationals and then ill-treat them. They are here because some were very sharp in criticizing their country, that if you raise a voice in country X, you disappear. This is what was said by them. And I'm happy because the chairperson of Africa Diaspora Forum is actually writing a report on the basis of the meeting we had. So it would not just be my report. It will also be the report of people from these countries. I think this matter must be discussed because, in a sense, everybody then criticized South Africa as if we have manufactured a problem. Because even if people who are xenophobic are a minority, but what prompted these refugees to be in South Africa is a matter we cannot shy away as South Africa not to discuss. Because we need all of us need to handle our citizens with care. So we are very happy that we hear there are some mamas that this matter must be discussed in the AU. Very happy to give us an opportunity to deal with the matters in South Africa and in other countries in the continent that lead to this situation. Compatriots, we also need to come to terms with the fact that there is a lot of anger in our society and a propensity to use violence, which results from years of apartheid dehumanization. We need to do more to promote healing and tolerance amongst all our people. Linked to this is the need to also continue efforts to fight racism, which also continues to be a challenge in our country. Therefore, our nation building and healing efforts require more enthusiasm and the involvement of every sector of society. Often I hear on the programs on the radio, particularly in the morning period, people complaining about angry South Africans. And at times they argue, are South Africans angry or not? And they quote incidences where people, if one car blocks the other, others come out and fight or take out guns. So on the basis of that, they say South Africans are angry. One of the things people identify, if people want to protest in need of something, particularly from government, protesting is a right enshrined in the Constitution. But what do? They get excited, they burn tires, they block the roads, they destroy property, exercising their right, but interfering with the rights of many. That's a problem. Workers themselves, if they go on strike, they carry sticks. They are very angry, and they deal with somebody they meet across who has nothing to do with their conflict with their boss. So people say there is something wrong. have a belief, and I've raised this with other leaders, stakeholders, and I've raised it with the church leaders, that we are still going to have meetings to talk about. That one of the things we did not do after 1994 was to address the culture that had been embedded to the society by apartheid. Apartheid was a violent system and therefore produced a violent counter to it. Now, once we're free, we did not address this issue. So people still believe if you fight authority, use violence, even if it is now their own government. If they are asking for services, ban and destroy other services. It's a contradiction. It means we need to be helped as a society. And it must be a duty of all leaders in all sectors. It's not the duty of government only. Civil society also, a non-governmental organization must participate. It's absolutely important for us to do so. If you just care to look at it, look at the institution that is said to be an apex of democracy, parliament. Look at the politicians who are supposed to vote, whom you voted for, how angry they are, how defiant they are in parliament. You know, parliament is one of the most respected institutions. One of the powerful officers is the speaker. Even if you are wrong or the speaker is not right, if the speaker says order, there must be order. If the speaker says sit down, you must sit down. If the speaker says withdraw what we have said, you have no alternative, you must withdraw. If the speaker says out of my house, you must get out. But what are some of the members of your parliament say? If the speaker says sit down, they say, Speaker, I want to address you. And they continue addressing the speaker. If the speaker says withdraw what you said, I won't withdraw. If the speaker says out, I'm not going out. You can bring your security. You know, that is the glaring example of the nature of apartheid culture of violence that is left with us. It's not just with ordinary people. Even in parliament, we need to be cured. We are sick. I'm underlining this point because I want to simplify the issue for you to know we have a problem we need to address. All of us. You know, we who have been working hard in this country, going down in the mines, there's a particular uniform we dress, and for the danger underground we put helmets underground. It's for very clear reasons. It's not a nice thing. It's not a nice thing. It's an enforced kind of thing. If you work as a domestic worker, you wear a pinafore even if you are a man or whatever. It's not nice. It actually undermines you. As in the past, we used to be called boys and girls. Now you can't say we are fighting for the poor people and then demonstrate the kind of way that undermines. And we are saying is a most objective view you are expressing. We are sick, absolutely. And if you don't know the life of the Africans in particular, you can do that thing. As a result, you would know, many of you who are older, that precisely because we don't like that word, we don't use it in our special occasions. On weekends, we put our best, because then we are now real, dignified. So that is bringing us back to, and I was putting a bit like pain. There's an expression in Zulu that says, ukungazi kufana nokungaboni. We who know what it means, we will never do that. Because our people don't want to be reminded where they come from. I'm dealing with the culture of violence in South Africa. We need to come together to get rid of it. We have never seen, if people are marking somebody, pickpocketing, they don't even know whether this somebody has a penny, but they shoot the person to die, to pickpocket the corpse, and there is nothing. A life is taken for sweet nothing. So we do need to address this issue. And as I said, I've raised the matter with the stakeholders, particularly the religious grouping. We need a psychological cure as a country to drop the anger. Very important. If even politicians are angry, then who's going to rule the country? You can imagine if such people can rule the country. They will start wars with every other country because of the anger of apartheid. Where my babo? Rwanda Msebenzi. Fellow South Africans, our country will celebrate Africa Month in May through various activities. We should participate in the activities throughout the country to promote our African identity and culture. Compatriots and friends, as we celebrate Africa Day today, our hearts, as we celebrate the Freedom Day, not the Africa Day, Freedom Day today, our hearts go out to the families of the hundreds of Africans who perished in the Mediterranean Sea while trying to migrate into Europe in search for a better life. It is a painful tragedy which puts the spotlight on the conditions that force Africans to undertake dangerous journeys to build a better future for themselves and their families. Allow me also to extend our condolences to the people of Nepal, where a shattering earthquake has claimed the lives of more than 2,000 people. We also extend our heartfelt condolences to the family of our celebrated footballer star, John Shoes Mushweu, who is being laid to rest today. His contribution to SOGA and the promotion of national unity in our country will always be remembered. Fellow South Africans, we are Africans, and we are proud of our African identity. We must continue to live in peace and harmony with our brothers and sisters from the continent. Where problems arise, they must be resolved peacefully and constructively. Let us also continue to embrace unity among ourselves as South Africans and work together to build a better South Africa as we enter the third decade of our freedom and democracy. Compatriots, fellow South Africans, and ladies and gentlemen, I wish all South Africans a very happy Freedom Day. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.